Hi, I'm Cameron Bonzi. I'm the Vice President of Marketing with Coast of Maine Brands. And today I am with Glen Widmer, who is the principal of Ames and Weymouth Schools in Belfast, Maine. And Glen, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your school garden program, the importance of it to kids, obviously the Growing Good program, and your work with Food Corps. So you've been at Ames and Weymouth for how long?
Well, this is my first year, Cameron. I was the principal at Captain Albert Stevens School for the past 5 years. And that's also at RSU 71. And that is in Belfast. This school is in Searsmont and the other school is in Morrill. So these are smaller towns outside of Belfast. The principal left 3 weeks before school started. My assistant principal at the other school, she could step right in and take over. So I moved out to these schools, and with the goal of establishing a gardening program out here. I've worked initially. I worked as a teacher at Troy Howard Middle School in Belfast, and was very. In fact, the reason I applied to work there was because of the garden program they had. I said, "Oh, I want to be a part of this." So I joined there as a math teacher and was there until 2011. And while I was there, I did some research on school gardens. Just became more interested in school gardens. When I moved out to RSU 3, there was a beautiful greenhouse at that school, but it was just being used for storage. So I thought, well, here's great potential to start a real hands-on program for the students out there. So we established, through the help of Food Corps, we established school gardens in every elementary school in RSU 3. I worked with another principal, and we
that's amazing.
Made that our goal. And by the time I left there, every elementary school had a school garden, and they all have a greenhouse as well, or a hoop house.
That's pretty incredible to also have a greenhouse and a hoop house and pulling that all together. Logistically, that's not easy. If you start gardening in the spring and then maintaining those gardens over the summer. Do your programs do that, or do they just do kind of a back to school garden?
Yeah, Food Corps has enabled us, because Food Corps does extend somewhat into the summer season. It has allowed us to do some summer programming with students in the garden.
That's perfect.
And that leads to, ideally, parents and families taking on the maintenance of the school garden during the time that Food Corps is not involved. But because Food Corps does extend into July, it does kind of pave the way for that ongoing maintenance of the garden after the Food Corps service member is no longer there.
Do you have any idea on how much you've been able to harvest over the years? Any impact on the number of students? How many people you've been able to feed, or how many pounds of food, or anything like that?
I can't give you any solid data on that, Cameron. Sorry, but I can tell you anecdotally, we've been able to have community meals where we bring the whole community in. That's one way that we've broadened our support for the program and allowed in RSU 3. Food Corps partners with school districts for a finite amount of time.
Sure.
For 5 years of partnership, the school board, I presented to the school board the idea of having an an educational technician, who would manage the gardens in RSU 3. And the school board voted that down and proposed that they actually make it a teaching position. So taking it up one step further.
Wow.
RSU 3 now has a teacher that's dedicated exclusively to farm to school programming in the district. So that's kind of the model that Food Corps is hoping that sort of support happens at the local level, and Food Corps is the catalyst.
That's a great story. So you're actually funded a teaching position, and their focus is school gardens, horticulture, and that type of teaching, right?
Yep, that's correct. Darcy Johnson is the Johnston, I think it is the teacher, the garden teacher out in RSU 3, and she's been there for, I think this is our 6th year.
Is there, or do you have any idea how many school districts in Maine actually fund that type of position? It sounds like it's pretty rare.
It's rare, but that is changing and I think a lot of that does have to do with the influence of Food Corps being in the school districts,
Yeah.
because that's a really inexpensive way to have some high quality farm to school programming happening. And then once parents see that, once students get used to learning that way, and teachers have the opportunity to work with a Food Corps service member and see how things can be done a little differently, then you've got the community support and expectation that that sort of thing is going to continue. And once the families and the community start to see it as just the way we do things in schools, then they will continue to support it. And a good example of that is the garden manager at Troy Howard Middle School. When I was teaching there, the district at the time, which I think was RSU 34, we've had a few iterations of our district around here, went through a real financial crisis. And they talked about cutting all sorts of programs and positions, but that was one position that they didn't even discuss. The school board never even talked about cutting the garden program or the garden manager at Troy Howard Middle School. So I thought that was a real testament to the
That's
value
amazing.
in the
I mean,
community.
and noticing and really understanding the value of it, especially the experiential learning that is so good for some, well, all kids, but some kids in particular. And then how much is funded by donations and how much is funded by the school budget for running a school garden?
Yeah, it's the positions are totally in the school budget, both in RSU 71 and in RSU 3. That position for the manager of Troy Howard is still there. And our hope is to add at least 1 or 2 other positions that would cater to the needs at the elementary level.
Do you know,
the big plan would be to have 3 garden manager positions in Belfast in RSU 71.
yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, we've seen the positive impact of it, and you know, when we know there's a lot of stress on everybody, but especially on schools, and especially working through COVID and all the things you've had to deal with there, as we and how busy you are, as we had a time this morning and you had to cover for somebody who was sick. So I appreciate the time, and I will say that my grandmother was a teacher, my mother was a teacher, my sister just retired as a teacher, and my daughter was going to be a teacher. Teaching is in my blood. I've got coaches for kids, so it's that impact. But I think that the sense of bringing communities together, I think that it's important that we're able to, at Coast Maine, to be able to at least get product into your hands to offset some of those costs, to get you connected with a local retailer who can help you and be a resource. And hopefully we can be here for advice, not only for the school, but also for future generations to teach these kids skills. Food insecurity is a big deal. And, I think that the more that we can do with this, the better. So kudos for you. I know how much work it is. How did you get the passion for it? You said, I mean, you came into it, you love gardening, it sounds like.
Well, I like gardening.
Yeah.
I think that I went to a presentation by Steve Tangway and John. His name's going to escape me at the moment, but they were the ones that started that program at Troy Howard Middle School, and I just thought, well, this is the way to learn: is to take a project and tie the math and the science and the social studies to that project, so that the kids are completely immersed in what it is that they're doing, and that the learning that is happening is that's not the focus. The learning is happening as a result of something that the students are doing that they're really engaged in, and that learning is just an integral part of it. It's just rolled right into it. It's not like a conscious effort. We're going to learn this now. The kids are just learning as they work through a project or a problem that is related to something very real.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And how would you suggest other schools who may be wanting to have the same type of success that you have reach out to Food Corps, or, obviously we try to get schools to reach out to us too. What do you have for ideas in setting up this type of program with schools?
Well, the Maine School Garden Program Network is a great resource. I can't say enough good things about Retree S and Richard Hodges.
Oh man, you'll make me cry because we do a lot of work with Richard.
Yeah.
So, that's awesome.
Yeah, all those schools in RSU3 also have orchards. We have an orchard at Captain Albert Stevens School. There's one at Troy Howard Middle School. And the goal is to get an orchard out here at Ames School, which is where I am right now.
Cool.
So just finding the Maine Farm to School network. I can't remember what I've already said here, but
Oh, no, that's fine. And we
finding
can,
those local supporters too. The co-op is a big
Yep.
supporter of ours, Obashan
yep,
in Belfast, and really any, like you were talking about the local businesses. Local businesses have been great supporters for what we have tried to accomplish. So finding those partnerships, and I'm glad you reached out to me, because obviously those partnerships, oftentimes we are reaching out to people in the community. It's great to have you reaching out to the schools and just saying, hey, we're here. That's wonderful.
It's I hope to expand this further and broader. I mean, we do the best that we can. We let the garden centers know. We promote it on our social media, connecting with somebody like Richard or Retree US or to Retree us. He's been a huge benefit for that. I love what he does. I've been working with him, I think, since 2014. It's rare that we would say no to something. We know that we're a part of the Maine community, and we want to be a part of every community that we can be. And this is a good way to facilitate with some product, with some education, and bring communities together, we hope, and get them to buy local. And we all need each other in these times as much as possible. So I appreciate everything that you did. I know it was not easy to squeeze us in today. So what we'll do is I'll take this, kind of look at it. I will send it to you and say, hey, is there anything you don't like? And then we'll go forward with it. So, please congratulate all of your teachers and your kids. And thank them for doing what they do. And I thank you for doing what you do.
Okay. Well, thank you, Cameron.
All right, Glenn. Have a great one.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.